When you're looking for attention, there is a level of selfishness. That is selfishness. If you're willing to kill yourself because your parents are not talking to you or you're not getting attention from certain people, your friends, family, whoever, and you're like, all right, I'm just killing myself and people won't care about me now. That is selfishness. Because the thing about it is death doesn't just happen to you. It happens to the people around you. Your family feels it. Your friends feel it. There's a level of depression that people go through when they lose somebody. So
but again, can you call it selfishness if we know that this is happening because of mental illness?
Exactly. See, that's what my thing is.
I don't think that mental illness is because of spirits. I think they're two separate entities. So for us as Muslims in the Quran, Allah tells us that we shouldn't fall into despair. Mm-hmm. Why? Because once you fall into despair, what happens? You can't really, when you're in like, let's say, when you're in like an emotional breakdown, right, you don't think clearly anymore. The only way to get out of that state that you're in is to think about what's physically here at this time. This is something that is used in psychology. You have to think about where you are at this moment because your mind is going to keep reeling on all the negative energy. This is something also that's based on a lack of discipline of the mind. And a lot of people don't know that they're supposed to even be disciplined in their mind, to control their own thoughts, to stop themselves from falling into certain desires that are not going to benefit them at the end. And in this case, the desire that this individual might be feeling is to end it. I don't believe there's not one human being who hasn't had that thought creep up on them at least once. Even if it was a little whisper, it'll creep up. And that's a teaching that we have in Islam. And that's why Allah warns us of this. He warns us that this, when it happens, when you reach disparity, don't fall into it. Don't allow yourself to go in. And that is why I keep saying that we have to discipline our minds. But many people don't know that this is even the way to go about it. The way to go about it is to discipline your mind. And how do you do that? You can start by, having every day, wake up in the morning and say, I am a good person because such and such. I can do this because such and such. Just basically training yourself every day, just like you train every other part of your body.
Aside, you have to think of they're killing themselves. They can't live. So life must be so bad that they can't.
But Sochi, what about self-love? My life is hard. Everyone's going through something, but yes, I love myself enough to know that I'm going to see another day.
But what are you specifically? But what are you specifically going through in terms of struggles? If a female, what about? No, right. But what type of struggle is so severe?
No.
If you're a man or woman that
don't ever do that.
But what I'm saying is that
listen, can I say something? I personally have dealt with depression in my life before, and it was hard for a long time. I was going weeks on end without getting out of bed, but I was able to pick myself up out of that, out of my own will and strength and strength of mind.
How do you do it?
I had to start. I had to put myself in the position every single day with my willpower, consciously, to get out and make myself better, feel better.
Is it fair? But I'm saying, is it fair to agree that you had hope? You had hope. You knew you were.
I had to struggle to find it, but I found
something, right?
It's an abomination. An abomination. Literally, when somebody commits suicide in the Nigerian culture, they will bury them instead of burying them in their compounds, because that's how Nigerians bury their family members. They bury them in the forest, deep in the forest.
That's where the cultural thing comes in.
It's an embarrassment. Even though the family's sad, it is part of the culture.
So to add on that, Cody,
the real unfortunate part about that is, in the Ethiopian culture, I know there's a lot of suicides. I've grown up, unfortunately, as a child, knowing of family members and family friends who had committed suicide. An uncle who literally came home from church with his family, went into the garage and shot himself in the head. Wow. A 19-year-old gorgeous girl who just came from Eritrea, was living in the States, killed her roommate and then hung herself in the bathroom.
And what were the reasons for the?
And this is a thing. I think it's a cultural thing as well. How we were saying, it's the fact that you have your family members that put so much pressure onto you, and it's like I can't even deliver. I can't make them proud, and it's so unfortunate that you know, they're trying to prove themselves to you, and at the same time, after you commit suicide, it's like you still don't win.
You
You know,
have a lot of pressure as
it's a lot of pressure.
The idea in like, especially Nigeria, people won't leave you alone. Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. Like, you know, they won't leave you alone. Like, yeah, like you have a kid, they all in your house. Yep. You got your aunt, your cousins, somebody you don't know, a random person, all in your house. You know, God forbid you lose a loved one, all in your house. There's a strong support system in Nigeria. Like, people are all in your face, around you. In America, especially New York, we don't have that support system. I call you my best friend, I don't hear from you for months, weeks, days at a time, almost a year. In Nigeria, there's like the support system there is crazy, it's strong. It's like, it's hard to be alone. It's hard to be left alone because everybody's in your business, from neighbors, aunts, uncles, cousins, family, friends. Like, they're involved, like they're there. We don't really get that too much in America, especially New York, because we're just so consumed with working. I mean, you work, 9 to 5. You probably take 30 to an hour to get home, then running errands. Like, I have some people that I see in the back of my mind I want to check up on, and then I just completely forget because I'm so consumed with, like, everything I'm doing. And sometimes I end up feeling away if nobody check up on me, but I got to remember, we all busy. We all got things going on.
I am also a person who has tried to commit suicide. Because I felt very lonely at some point in my life. And it happened to me twice, actually, that I tried to do that. So that's why in retrospect, looking back, I understand that I wasn't diagnosed with depression or anything. I was very young. I was 14 the first time I tried, or 13, and then the second time I was like 17. I can't say that I didn't have everything I needed as growing up. My mom, she did everything for me. She's my rock, so till this day I'm very grateful, and I'm glad that Allah gave me another chance to be here so I can show her that I appreciate her. See, when I was younger, I had a moment where I allowed myself to fall into despair. I had 2 moments when that happened, and I wasn't Muslim, so I didn't know about these teachings or anything like that. I just knew what I was going through at that moment, at that place, at that time, and I couldn't see past it. So I went for it. I went for what people will call the easy route, which is to end it.
I really don't like to put my family's business out, but there was a point in time where my younger brother in elementary said that he wanted to commit suicide. He was chubby, he was always being picked on, and the fact that my mother, and I love, her to death, and she was the best mother. She is the best mother. The fact that we did not take him to therapy is a problem.
But it was a different time during
that's the thing. We think that black culture.
I think there's a difference between the African American home and the African home.
Yeah. Okay. What's the difference?
So I think the difference is in the Black American community, there's more compassion. I know it's not much, but I think there's a little bit more than the African community.
Why?
I agree.
As to Cody's point earlier, whereas in the continent, it's taboo.
Taboo.
Let's say, hold on. Let's say I go to my parents and tell them I'm suicidal. I mean,
they'll
you
look at
guys,
you like you tripping.
They will denounce me.
Yeah,
like,
you're crazy.
It's not like, okay, what can we do? Let's take you to the therapist.
Yo, Nigerian parents are frustrated
they are
on 100.
hard on us. Like, you cannot be depressed. It's not an option.
It's an embarrassment on the family.
So if, let's say, one of you guys, as men now, were to come up to your mom and say, "Mom, I don't think I can do this anymore. I think I want to end it."
What? God forbid.
Luckily for me.
Do you think it's because Africans are more in touch with real life, like reality as it is?
Yes, they are. The reality is...
No. What do you mean by that?
No.
I think it's because...
Time out. You saying that Africans are more in touch with real life?
With real life and the essence and the meaning of what life is supposed to be and what's important, maybe.
I disagree.
I
disagree.
Why?
I think that, look, speaking of African Americans, I think that personally it's all about your experiences, your life experiences. Right. If you have not traveled the world, if you have not studied and dealt with different cultures and lifestyles, and you're very primitive. You don't know what life is about outside of your cubicle.
So
but at the same time,
exactly
you have to, you have to branch out. I had to, call time on. I had to foul play, you know.
A mom, right? A mom with kids.
Right.
That's what I think about, like, mostly when I think, oh, that was a selfish act.
Right.
Like when you're a mom or a dad and you have kids to look after, people that are like really, really relying on you, and you kill yourself and you take yourself out of their lives in this world.
So aren't the parents
It's
selfish?
conditioned. You're saying that.
So for all our watchers watching, if you are experiencing any suicidal thoughts or behaviors, or know of somebody experiencing any suicidal thoughts or behavior, bouts of depression, please, please, please contact this number on our screen, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK. Once again, please, please, please contact 1-800-273-TALK. Until next time, to our viewers, stay peaceful of the mind and love each other.
Love.
Yes, and we love you.
We love you guys so much. The African American Millennials, see you guys later.
Nothing, I don't feel like anything for a person who's going through that moment would suffice, to be quite honest. The only thing I could say is just try your hardest. Just keep hope. Have hope. It will get better if you give it a chance. Give your life another chance. Just, I'm telling you, I didn't necessarily give my life another chance. It just so happened that God gave me the other chance. And I'm grateful for that because I was able to do so much more for myself, for people who I love. Just give yourself the chance. It's hard now, I know it is. Trust me, I understand. It's hard. Just give yourself a chance.
When Shik brought up the experience she had with her depression and suicidal thoughts, it really struck a chord with me because I've too been through similar experiences, and it just made me feel like, you know, you're never alone in anything. There's always someone out there who's going through something similar to yourself.
I teared up because I know how she feels, and I know the feeling of she outside, and I'm sure she is now, but you know, you would think that she was a strong Black woman. She was always strong, and it's not that. And I felt like her opening up is showing everybody that they can look like they're good on the outside, but the inside is what really matters.
I looked for the national or the continent-wide hotline for suicide/mental illness. If anyone knows the number, please put it in the comments below.